Hi, welcome back. We're going to do a unit on ethics. Remember, ethics is that part of philosophy that has to do with the good life. So we've been talking about the three areas of philosophy: epistemology, how do I know? Metaphysics, what is real? Now we get to the house where we live, and this is where we make choices. This is where we have values and attitude, and this is where all of life gets lived. So we need to talk about ethics and how to define it. This is a handout that has several great core questions on it. So the first question I want to ask you is, what is the definition of ethics and what is ethics concerned with? So let's look at it. Ethics is concerned with giving a rational justification for the answer to the question, what is the good? Here's what ethics assumes. Ethics assumes choice. Choice assumes values, and values assume the concept of the good. What is particularly sought in ethics is rational justification. So rational justification is giving reasons for our answer to how we answered the question, what is the good? So let's say I tell you, oh, the good is happiness. You get to ask me, why? Why is the good happiness? When you say why, you're asking for reasons, and that's rational justification. Rational justification is not psychological justification. Psychological justification is like, because I like it. It's based on my feelings. So we're not looking for feelings, answers in ethics. We're looking for reasons. And it's not practical justification. Practical justification is like saying, well, it works. It works for me. And if it works for you, that goes back to your feelings as well. It's, I like it. I like it is not an answer in ethics. Reasons. So if I say happiness is the good and you say why, then I have to give you reasons for saying that. I actually don't think happiness is the good, so I have no reasons for saying that. But notice also, we make choices. You chose to turn this video on today. Choices are up here. They assume we have values. You valued this video today over other things. Maybe you're taking notes and you value the class, or maybe you're cooking while you listen. I don't know. You have values, and your values will show you what you think about the good. So notice we're using our presuppositional method going back. Choice, values, the good, our highest value. And behind our view of the good is our view of metaphysics, what is real. And behind our view of what is real is how we know things. So you can see the house again, right? How I know, what is real, what is the good, what are my values, what do I choose, what am I doing right now? So you can go from what you're doing to right now to your view of the good life. The good life I'm using is the good, the ultimate goal. All right, so that's ethics, what it's concerned with, and what it assumes. I want you to know this for the rest of your life. Rational justification. Now, I also want you to think, do you have rational justification for your answer to the question, what is the good? Have you answered the question, what is the good? Well, maybe you want to know a definition for the good. So let's look at a definition. The next core question that's coming from this handout is going to be, what are the three main concepts of ethics? And I want you to be able to define each. The three main concepts of ethics are the good, virtue, and happiness. And they're logically ordered. First the good, then virtue, then happiness. Let me show you. And this comes from Aristotle. And there's a reading. You can read his ethics textbook. Ooh, I bet I have it right behind me somewhere. It's in a big book here. Aristotle's complete works. It's called the Nicomachean Ethics, and it begins with this statement about the good, the Nicomachean Ethics. I encourage you to read it. Maybe you can, go read it, find it online. Maybe I'll put a link in there for you. All right, so here's the definition of the good. The good is what is sought as an end in itself, for its own sake, and not for the sake of something else. Okay, so the good is an end in itself. So now you have to distinguish between ends and means. Do you know the distinction between an end and a means? An end is a goal. Means is how you achieve it. So the good is the goal of all goals. So perhaps I could ask you, why did you take this class? I know the answer. We probably had this discussion before, right? I took this class to get humanities credits. Well, why do you need humanities credits? So I could get my degree. Well, why do you want to get a degree? So I could get a good job. Well, why do you want a good job? So I can get money and live a life of comfort. Okay, why do you want to live a life of comfort? Because suffering is terrible. Okay, then what happens after your life of comfort? Death, right? So that's the story. Where's the good in that story? This is like a means to a means to a means to a means. Death is not the goal of life. Death is not the end in itself. Death is the end of life, physically. But it's not the end intellectually. So we need to find what is the reason for doing all the things we do. We do lots of things, right? We make choices and actions come out of our choices. Why are we acting the way we are? We should back up and see, what is my view of the good, the end in itself? It's something you seek because it's the good, not for the sake of something else. So taking this class could be an end in itself. It could be, I just want knowledge. I really just want to know. That's an end in itself. Why do you want knowledge? It's not practical knowledge. It's knowledge of what is. Philosophers are looking for this. They want to know what is and want to understand what is. But if you know what is and you know what the good is, you also want to act wisely in the world. So knowing the good will give you wisdom in how to make choices in the world. We don't talk about wisdom much, but remember, philosophy is the love of wisdom. Wisdom is knowing the good and the means to the good. And it's not just like, oh, I want to get a degree, so what's the best way to get the degree? That's some practical wisdom, but how do you live the whole of life? How do you choose in such a way that the whole of your life is for the good? That's ethics. And that's what we've largely abandoned in our day. Because of skepticism, we can't really know the good. We can't know what's real. We can't know the good. So we have to just pick something. And that makes life very dull, boring, and dead. Now look at this point. It is clear to reason what cannot be sought for its own sake and what can be. So let's think of some of the things people say is the good. I think money is put out there as the good. Can money be an end in itself? Can you seek money for its own sake? Or is money necessarily a means to something else? What is money anyway? It's a placeholder. Money stands for value, right? I teach philosophy classes. The school gives me money. But the money is just a placeholder for that work that I did. It has a certain value. The money is like this agreement we have between each other that you will pay this much to the school because you think this class is of this value. I produce the class. I ask the school for this much money because I think it has this value, and we're exchanging what is of value, right? So money is a means to something else. It's an exchange of value. So I could get other things I value, like coffee. Yes, I buy sometimes expensive coffee because I value it. But why? I don't know. I like coffee. Does that mean I think happiness is the good, pleasure is the good? No. I think coffee is a means to doing philosophy. This is iced coffee. Okay, so an end is clear. So I mentioned knowledge. I'm not talking about know-how. I'm talking about justified true belief. Knowledge is an end in itself. You just want to know. And there's not much else after that. You know it. And guess what? If you know it, it might make you happy. It might. But that means the end has effects. Achieving the end, achieving the goal has effects. All right, so the good is what is sought as an end in itself for its own sake and not for the sake of something else. That's answering this part. I'm going to ask, what are the main concepts of ethics? And I want you to explain each. So this explains the good. What is virtue then? Virtue, have you heard of virtue? Do you know what virtues are? The philosophers, ancient philosophers particularly, have spent a lot of time talking about virtue. In that Homeric worldview, virtue was seen as the good, and these were the warrior virtues. But we can talk about virtue. It is what is sought as a means to the good. So the goal is the good. Virtue is how you achieve that goal. And there are different kinds of virtues, and Aristotle tells us about these in the Nicomachean Ethics. The confusing thing about that book is he doesn't order them the way we're ordering them. He doesn't order the good, virtue, happiness. He just gives us these concepts, and it makes it confusing for the rest of ethics. Which one comes first? So we can say the good has to come first logically, because virtue isn't an end in itself. For example, let me give you some examples of virtues, and we can see, are these an end or are these means? So we can talk about moral virtues. Take notes, because this isn't on the handout, but I want you to know this. The moral virtues in classical Greek culture included wisdom, connected to reason, courage, connected to your actions, your will, and temperance, connected to your appetites or your desires. So remember, humans have thoughts, desires, will. There are virtues that guide those. Reason or wisdom, temperance was over here, guiding your desires, and courage guiding your will, and justice is when these are in balance in yourself. When you are in balance, justice is the virtue of being a well-rounded person. Those are moral virtues. Later on, were added theological virtues: faith, hope, and love. So these are considered the moral virtues, okay? Notice, love is a virtue. Love seeks the good for the other person. I love my students. I seek the good for you. I love my husband. I seek the good for him. I love my country. I seek the good for it. I love my dogs. I seek the good for them. So love is not the good. Love is a means to the good. And you can do that with the other virtues. Courage is a means to perhaps defending the good. Why are you courageous? You're courageous in a time of fear and danger. So it's not, for example, let's say the house is on fire and you're a firefighter. You are courageous to go into the burning building and put out the fire. You're not courageous just to be courageous. All right. So that's moral virtues. There are natural virtues as well. Things we're born with that we could call it virtue privilege. You have certain virtues that you didn't get yourself. You were born with them. And some of the ones that Aristotle talks about are natural intelligence. Some people are just naturally intelligent. Do you know those people that don't have to study? They just get by with their sheer brilliance? Yeah, I know people like that. Others like me, we have to work at it and study and take notes and make note cards and get it in our long-term memory. Natural intelligence. Some people are born beautiful, right? Others have to work at it. Like, I spend a lot of time putting on my makeup because I don't have the natural beauty, but some people are born beautiful, right? And you can use your beauty. It's a virtue. Physical strength is another one he talks about. Some people are just buff, right? They're just born strong. Others have to lift weights. So these things are means to the good. Other virtues he calls instrumental virtues. Instruments, tools to achieve the good. For example, shelter is a virtue. Clothing is a virtue. Food is a virtue. Money is a virtue. iPhones are a virtue. Computers are virtues. All of the tools we need to accomplish the good are virtues, okay? So we shouldn't make money the good, because money is a virtue. It's not, it's a tool. It's a tool for achieving the good. And our clothes are for the good. Notice I always wear black shirts. Why is that? Because it's not distracting. I don't have to think about, oh, what's the student going to think about this shirt today? I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I'm just going to wear black all the time because I'm mourning the death of reason, and I have kind of a uniform. You know why? It's a tool. It's a tool for the good. And also in videos, you don't know what day I made this video, do you? No, because I'm tricking you. Okay, virtue is what is sought as a means to the good. It's how we accomplish the good. I'm emphasizing each of these because we're going to see when we look at the different views of the good that humans in the history of ideas have confused these categories a lot. All right, the last category, and you would hope it was the first, but it's the last, is happiness. Notice this. Happiness is the effect of possessing what we believe is the good. So you pursue something because you think it is the good, and you think it's going to make you happy. Happiness can't be sought directly. I don't know, can you go to the store and buy happiness? No. If you buy something, does it make you happy? Not really, if you think about it. I mean, when I got my new iPhone that I'm using here, I was happy for a moment, and then I was like, it's a thing. Things don't make me happy. But what I make with the thing, and if I see you growing in knowledge, that would make me happy. Because my goal is to spread the good. I want to seek the good for you, and I want you to catch the good, and I want you to spread the good and make it better for everybody. How about that? Happiness is the effect of possessing what we believe is the good. It cannot be sought directly. Consider the difference between happiness and lasting happiness. Okay, so this is the difference between what we think is the good and what is actually the good. Socrates said this very controversial thing. He says, nobody knowingly pursues evil. We always pursue the thing we think is good, and sometimes it's not really good, and we become unhappy. Or sometimes we think someone else has the good, and I can't have it, and we're discouraged and disappointed and envious, perhaps. So it's the difference between what we believe is the good, which we could be mistaken about, and what is actually the good. And if we have what's actually the good, then we will have lasting happiness. Even if bad things happen to us, we won't lose our happiness or contentment or joy. Joy is like calm happiness that persists through time. That's what we really want, right? Lasting happiness. Now, I need to tell you a few more things about the good that's not on this handout. And you should take notes because it's important. Aristotle says, the good for a being is based on the nature of that being. So the good for a dog is based on the nature of a dog. The good for a rabbit is based on the nature of a rabbit. The good for a horse is based on the nature of a horse. And the good for a human is based on the nature of a human. So we need to know what human nature is in order to know the good for human beings. This is why it's so important to settle the question in metaphysics first. Are humans an evolved animal that are material and that when you're dead, that's it? Well, then the good is probably live it up in this life. Is the good for humans based on human nature and humans are just a spirit with no body? Then you should deny this life, right? The good is denial of your desires. Is the good only attainable in the next life and not in this life? Well, then maybe you should deny your desires there too. This is something that the dualists teach. Is the good knowing God, perhaps, in theism? Is the good the knowledge of God? So how you answer the question in metaphysics is going to determine what a human being is. Is a human created a rational animal designed to know, and not just that, in a world that is made to be known? So those are the metaphysical questions that will determine our view of the good. So the good for beings based on the nature of a being. The good for humans is based on human nature. He thought, and I think, I hope you do too, humans are fundamentally rational beings. We have a body, but reason is to rule over our body. So the good for humans is the use of reason to the fullest. And reason used to the fullest gives us knowledge of the nature of ultimate reality, metaphysics. And it'll tell us what the good life is and what virtues should be directed towards that goal. Now I'm going to pause here because we're going long, and we're going to talk next about different ethical systems and why we have skepticism in ethics. So I'll pause here and I'll see you in the next video.